Hi guys. So I recently finished the new season of He-Man Revolution, which is the continuation of the old He-Man Masters of the Universe cartoon, which technically counts as the second season for this on Netflix, but the third part because the first season was divided in part 1 and part 2, and this one just seems to be the same amount of episodes as each part, but its own season. So technically the second season, but of kind of the third season, I guess, if you want to say that, unless they're going to call the next part of this part 2. But either way, so I've seen this and I kind of wanted to give you guys my thoughts of how I felt about the show, since when I was looking online, I saw that there was still some mixed reviews. In the first season, or the first 2 parts, I know that there was a lot of mixed reviews as far as what people wanted out of this particular show. There wasn't enough He-Man, it was too much Teela, I get it. I understand why people have some gripes with that. I didn't have those gripes in the first season. I actually loved it as the way it was, and I like getting more information with other sub-characters and not making it just about He-Man, because He-Man's so overpowered. How can you ever have anything be an issue because you know He-Man's just going to go ahead and beat it? So, I understand that, but I do not understand why people would still have gripes when they've given you everything that you wanted in this particular season. I mean, they went and gave you more He-Man. They toned down all the Teela and all the side characters' elements, even though there was some things that kind of popped up, but it wasn't as prominent as it was in those first 2 parts. And now this is wholly a He-Man and Skeletor-centric show, and that's probably what everybody has asked for out of this series since it very first began. So for me, not only did I like the first 2 parts, I outright love this particular one. And if you're one of those internet trolls that just like to hate to just be hating, who's sitting there typing and is like, oh, it's not good enough, it's too late, look, sucker. This show is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It gives you everything that you absolutely want. One of the first things that you get out of this show is that, one, like I said, it is more He-Man. But it's not more He-Man and just He-Man just saves the day on everything. He-Man is faced with a lot of conflict and whether he should be reign as Adam, or reign as He-Man, or continue to go out and carry on in adventures as He-Man once Randor dies. Yes, I'm sorry, spoiler alert. That does happen in this show. Maybe if I hadn't already put it up, maybe I'll try to do that in my graphics earlier to make sure you guys know that this is a spoiler talk. But with that being said, it is an interesting thought of who Adam will be as he gets older. We always kind of think of him as the young prince, but eventually he would have to take over and rule Eternia. So I love that dynamic because I'm trying to figure out what he wants to do as a man and how he wants to lead or be a part of the savior of Eternia. I guess that's the best way I could probably say it. Now, other things that I liked about this particular show is that the voice acting. Look, we all knew Mark Hamill was back, or we all knew Mark Hamill was coming back to play Skeletor. And he was probably the most prominent thing in the first 2 parts, the first season of this particular show. But they one-upped that going forward. Look, they brought in Tony Todd to do Scareglow. I never cared about Scareglow ever once in my life. Not as a toy, not as any other introduction from comics to 2000, the early 2000s show. Look, I've never once cared about Scareglow. I now care that it's Tony Todd. His voice is amazing and he gives such gravitas, yes, I use big words here, to the Scareglow character, and that it just made me like, man, I was just so invested in the character. And even though it was kind of a brief part at the beginning of the show, I kind of want to see what they do more with Tony Todd continuing to be Scareglow. He may have been Scareglow in the first season, but like I said, the Scareglow for me wasn't a big deal. And so now really having him set off the show, I really enjoyed that. Other voice actors in this is like, look, we got Hordak, Keith David as Hordak. Look, I was wondering if they were going to bring Hordak in because obviously the relationships with Skeletor and the Horde, I was wondering if they were going to bring it in, but to bring Keith David in to do the voice, it was like listening to Spawn be the bad guy in this particular movie. Tony Todd and Keith David, perfect choices for them to do the bad people, to do the villains in this particular show. Now, you say, hey, we got Mark Hamill, we got Tony Todd, we got Keith David. They even one-up that by getting William Shatner to play Keldor. And if you're not familiar with Keldor, Keldor is the alternate identity of Skeletor. We're going to touch a little bit more as I talk more on my thoughts about this particular show. But to have William Shatner do that voice gives a great change between the 2 different personalities and personas. So I really love that they did that, and I really didn't want to just hear a regular Mark Hamill voice as Keldor, because then I couldn't really differentiate between the 2, and it's important that you do. other things that I liked about this is that, not Keldor, is that Skeletor is now actually a big bad. In the first one, I felt he was a little bit cheesy and kind of comical, and he was kind of like just your stand-up comedian. Just remember Skeletor, but now he does jokes. And it seemed like Evil Lyn was the more focused one in the first part. In this particular one, Skeletor, even though he starts now in a low spot because of the whole motherboard thing, the way they left it at the end, I had my apprehension about what they were going to do with Skeletor. Is he just now going to be a kick around, kind of like they did with Cobra Commander in the G.I. Joe movie? No. They build him up. They build him up and make him the imposing force he has to be. So much so that he actually defeats Hordak. We didn't have to wait for He-Man to do this. No, Skeletor took him out, which kind of puts him atop of the throne of the Horde. So I really love that, and kind of established his place on Eternia as the big bad. Not that he's just an underling for Hordak. I really, really love that. Now, I will say a couple other things that I liked about this is that them canonizing a lot of things that we've kind of known, which didn't seem to be part of the original canon. Like I said, the early 2000s stuff kind of introduced us to Keldor being the actual identity for Skeletor, and maybe in the comics if that happened before then. But it was really, really cool to kind of see them canonize that. They didn't seem like they were going to do that at first. It seemed like they were just going to do Keldor as a separate individual and Skeletor would be a separate individual. But to then later on reveal and not make you wait around for it a lot, that he is actually Keldor and that he has this whole mind warp thing, which is something that Hordak definitely does. So it's like it all made sense. And it was like he would wipe Skeletor's mind and memory of him being Keldor. And that's the reason why Skeletor would be motivated to take over Eternia, because it's his throne that he didn't get. That was something they kind of touched on in the early 2000s He-Man. They borrowed that a little bit. But also, too, like I said, it is within Hordak's wheelhouse. It happened with She-Ra and so on and so forth. So I really love that they canonized that. I love that they canonized the He-Man live-action movie. They brought in Gwildor. And they referenced the key that he made and his intergalactic adventures. And, like, all I could sit there as my inner child just smiled. They were like, yes! That movie now counts. And so if you haven't seen it, you might want to go out and see it, because it's not good. But it's a movie that you definitely want to say you see if you're a big part of a He-Man fan and you want to know all the lore. You definitely want to see that bad movie. But I loved it in a sense. And to see Orko and him kind of work together, even though he was a replacement for Orko, since they couldn't have the budget to do Orko, they made Gwildor, and it was like to see them on screen together was really, really, really exciting. So I love that. I like the fact that they also kind of gave us a bunch of fan service. Look, they went down the aisles of toys that we never got to really see in a lot of He-Man. First and foremost, the battle armor He-Man. Like, seeing the battle armor on him, having it take hits, and then having it change just like the original toy did. I sat here and I wanted to buy. Look, I don't even own He-Man action figures. As much as a He-Man fan, I actually don't own. But this show actually made me want to start collecting the line. Absolutely. Not sure if I'm going to do it, because Transformers and X-Men right now and G.I. Joe are kind of stealing my budget. But if I can find a way, I actually might start doing that. Now, it does leave us, I'm not going to go into too much as far as like the story and stuff, but it does leave us a lot of hope of what the next season is going to be, because it doesn't seem like they're going to stop after the season. It looks like we are going to get another additional season. Things do happen in this, things take place, a lot of great things, and the pacing of this show, you are going to be wanting to watch episode after episode after episode. You're not going to want to take a break and next week. It's like once you get done, you're going to want the next episode immediately, because they move through things like at a great pace that you're just like on the edge of your seat as far as what's going to happen next. Now, what's going to happen next? At the end of this show, spoiler alert, we see Skeletor, who is no longer Skeletor and now fully Keldor, being locked up in jail. We get to see the will they, won't they He-Man and Teela couple, I guess, going forward. The castle is now destroyed. Eternia is now a democracy. So it seems like they're wrapping things up with a nice bow, but we do get a little post credit. I don't know if it's post credit, but at the end we do see where they are bringing Hordak back to life. Now, one of the things about this whole bringing Hordak back to life, or even Hordak in this particular show, Hordak had such a presence in this show, and where he talked about, like, hey, no other planet has actually stood against me. Every time they have, I've had them crushed. He had the whole scene where Grizzlor and Leech came out. Everybody came out and dispatched his enemies. So when he had the fight with Skeletor, it's the first time he actually had an actual match. But with that being said, if he didn't have any other real conflict going forward, what happened to She-Ra? He was already battling She-Ra on her planet. So did he defeat her, or will we be seeing her going forward in this next season? Will she be coming to Eternia, or will they be going there? Since it seems like Eternia is safe for this point, will they be going there to help She-Ra out? Which I think would be a great way to do this show and to continue on, because you either have He-Man show up like they did in the original series and kind of have a one-off episode, and then he goes home and then you continue on with She-Ra, or he helps her for an entire season and we really get to see them interact together. I would be okay with either, because I feel like you can do a more mature She-Ra show, because I know Netflix already paid for like more of a younger version of it, and it doesn't mean that you can't do an older version of She-Ra. We already got another version of He-Man on Netflix as well, so why can't they do another version of She-Ra? I think it would absolutely work, and I was one of those kids who actually did watch She-Ra back in the day. I would still watch it today. Also, too, it leaves the door open to introduce more of her characters. I can't remember them off the top of my head right now. I just remember the dude who had the little heart on his chest and the little bat thing with the little bear with the bat wings on its ears and like the big butterfly ears. Was the only ones I really remember as far as the characters, and then the Horde. So we can see more of the Horde, and we can also see more of those particular characters that we didn't get a chance to really touch on. There are a lot of He-Man characters that we didn't get a chance to see too, so I would like to see a little back and forth, because, you know, we didn't see Man-E-Faces. I mean, Triclops, I mean, he was just under Motherboard. What's going to happen to Motherboard now that Motherboard's dead, and Skeletor is in jail, or Keldor is in jail, and Hordak is dead for Eternia? I kind of want to know how they address that, but also too, I kind of want to see more of those villains as well. Also too, it's like King Hiss. Maybe we will get that if they stay on Eternia. Maybe we'll see King Hiss. We already got to see Teela as Snake Teela, which is another thing I forgot to bring up. And it's like we got to see Snake Teela, who's based on like early artwork, and then the first toy that they came out with, early artwork for the Teela character that they just kind of scrapped and didn't go with. And it's like, and then they eventually made it into a particular toy. Thank you before you blow me up in the comments. We got to finally see that and how it makes sense. But I would be interested in King Hiss. I would like to see them do something with She-Ra. Obviously, we're getting Hordak back again. Man, there's so much for them to do, and you thought that maybe they could wrap this thing up in a couple of seasons. No, they still have plenty of things to do as far as this universe, and I'm happy to see it. So, those are all my thoughts on it. I felt like I went on a little bit too long. But you guys can tell me how you guys felt about the show in the comments below. I really didn't have a lot of negatives about it. I was very happy with this particular season. But like I said, tell me in the comments below how you guys feel. And if it's the first time that you're on the channel, make sure you subscribe, as well as click the notification button, so that way you're aware of all the other videos that we do here. So with that being said, and I'm out of breath, you guys take care.
Wait, guys, are you still here? I'm glad you're still here. All right, so if you look down, I mean, it's somewhere over here. Look down. We actually have a Patreon. So if you guys watch this show and you really like what we want to do, and you want to help support the show, and you want to help me get an editor so I can get to sleep at night because I'm really tired, and you guys see all my mistakes in the episodes, so please go to patreon.com/thegoods. Give us a penny, give us a nickel, give us $1.
Just don't give us the finger.
Don't do that. But make sure you do donate something, because we do have some giveaways. There's posters, there's t-shirts, there's...
I'll sign something for you.
Exactly. So take a look, guys, and help us out. We appreciate it.